guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent big ugly himself, Omari Ellis Feo Grande on YouTube, back with another video, or more, as I'm starting to realize, more of a podcast type deal. Another podcast thing where we talk about movies and everything, and of course, as usual, I am not alone. I am joined, as always, by my good friend, one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me back. Another wonderful day, another wonderful movie.
Yes, that's right. And as I said, this guy hasn't seen, a podcast of sorts where we talk about things one guy has seen and the other hasn't, trading them back and forth, whether it be movies or musicals, fucking TV shows, anime, we got it all. And this week, we got us a bit of a heavy watch. We're talking about the movie Bamboozled.
Bamboozled is from the year 2000. It's directed by Spike Lee, and frustrated African-American TV writer proposes a blackface minstrel show in protest, but to his chagrin, it becomes a hit.
Yes, to his chagrin, it does indeed become a hit.
And this stars Damon Wayans, Jada Pinkett Smith, Michael Rappaport, Savion Glover, Tommy Davidson, so many more.
Yeah, it had a lot of names I did not remember being in the movie when I rewatched it, this time. So as to, how I saw it initially, I believe I mentioned during the Set It Off video that I had the pleasure of meeting one Thomas Jefferson Bird, who's a great actor, especially in a lot of black films and stuff. If he's not mainstream enough to you, you've definitely seen him. He was Luther, I want to say, in Set It Off. I forget his character's name. I want to say it was Luther. It began with an L. Half the time I want to say Leon, but I think he was Leon in like the 5 Heartbeats movie or some shit. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is, he was that. He was also Honeycutt in this film. I had the pleasure of meeting him and sitting down and talking with him like in an apartment at one point, like just ultra casual, just chilling with a freaking bona fide celebrity when I was younger.
That's awesome.
Around late 99, around 2000. And this movie came out shortly after we had that conversation. And my mom was like, well, especially with me just kind of discovering my acting ambitions around that time, or rather, not so much the passion for acting, but the fact that this might be what I want to do with my life. Mm-hmm. My mom definitely took me to see it. Also, it's a movie, as you can tell from the synopsis of the movie, it involves black racial stuff and, the issues that face black people in the country and all of that, which my mom always would try to show me a lot of when I was a kid. Hence me saying on other episodes that that's not exactly the wheelhouse I go toward, because I had so much of it as a kid. Yeah. But I went and saw this with her. I'm not gonna stamp it with the membered favorably thing, but I did, I had always respected it for what it was and the message it was trying to convey. But it had stuck with me, but I had not seen it since it was in that theater show. There were some lines that I'll get into as we go through the review portion, but some parts have stuck with me, but I did not realize I had not seen this in 22 years.
Okay, so it's been some time. Yeah, some time removed from it.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters, and then not again
interesting.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters and did not see it again until today. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting enough. Little parts of it stuck with me enough to last to this day, but it was kind of fresh to watch it again this time. It's a Spike Lee joint or whatever, but Bill, had you heard of this? Why hadn't you seen it, if you had, or had you not even?
I had not ever even heard of it. Mm-hmm. I did not hear of its existence. And so that's why I hadn't seen it.
Fair.
I had never even heard it mentioned in Spike Lee's catalog. when somebody would roll through some movies. I mean, but dude makes a lot of movies.
Yeah, I had forgotten it was a Spike Lee joint.
That was surprising when putting it up when the credits started rolling. But I knew from what you had, from the little bit that you had given me, I remembered something about Owain's brother being in it, not necessarily Owain's production. Like I had the memory of you saying a single Wherein entity, and I didn't know which Wherein that would end up being, and then I remembered you mentioning that it deals with blackface. Like I feel like you gave pretty much exactly what it is, a modern take on dealing with blackface.
Yes. So yeah, that's why I had seen it. That's why you hadn't. And yeah, so hearing that it was that, seeing the synopsis, because I know you said you like to see the synopsis, the little, just get an idea of what you're getting into when you look at these things, like the little 1-2 sentence synopsis. What were you like expecting with this?
I had no idea. I had no idea. I had I knew, I thought it was going to be a really dark satire on blackface and minstrel shows, and I was like, how the fuck are they gonna do that?
Yeah.
How, where? It's such a, I mean, yeah, we'll get into it.
All right, so that reminds me, something else I thought about earlier today. You began the Lovecraft Country review with an apology to me because of how heavy a watch Lovecraft Country can be. I want to return that apology to you because Jesus Christ Superstar, not referencing the movie, but just saying, holy shit, this was a heavy watch. It's for me.
Yeah.
So
it is a very heavy watch. It is hard to watch at sometimes, probably very intentionally so. It is very heavy, and it is long, but that's not something to apologize for. I mean, it's only 2 hours and 10 minutes, really, when you cut out the credits. 2 hours and 8 minutes, which is not that long. It just feels long. It feels long because, I mean, and we'll get into it, but I think there's a problem in the edit here, where there is actually a very good hour and 40-minute movie lives inside of this film, but we'll get deeper into that.
I like the way you phrased that. Yeah, I like I said, some lines and scenes and particular shots had stuck with me. Like Honeycutt's catchphrase always stuck with me, and the bank that he got. The Jolly Bank had always stuck with me. I was like, hopefully this is good, like when it comes to like what I was expecting with this rewatch, because I'm a weird person. I care a bit more about what other people think than I should, but I was like, I don't want to suggest 2 bad movies in a row. But it's been 20 years. And then I think right before clicking on it, I saw like the tomato meter had this at like a 50-something%. And I was like, oh, well, I suggested it. We're watching it. Who cares about a tomato meter?
The tomato meter can be wrong sometimes.
Exactly.
I mean, IMDb has it as at a 6.6 out of 10, which is a respectable score.
Yeah. All right. So expectations out the way. Let's get into the initial reactions. Your initial reaction to this movie.
What the fuck, Omari? Another standard definition movie? What am I, some peasant living in the fucking bygone era? I got a 70-inch television and I want to use it for crisp, clean. How have you recommended? How have you found the only other movie that exists out there in the world that has not had a high
standard definition thing I recommended?
Set it off. Weirdly, does not have a high definition format out there, which is crazy.
Not my fault that Hollywood doesn't give our movies the treatment that they should have.
Well, and then my second initial reaction, I guess technically second initial reaction is, it's a Spike Lee joint. Oh, okay, interesting. I've maybe just become way more invested in this. And then third reaction is, what? And that what is directed toward, this film is shot with probably the same camera I had in 2003, 3 years later in my high school. Like,
I got that vibe from it as well.
He shot this with like the first level of high-end digital video, which still at that time, like when we look at them now, I mean, it looks like absolute garbage. But I would assume that like, I'm telling my own narrative here. This is completely my own narrative, but I've created like he went micro low budget the second he decided to make this movie, because he knew he was going to have a very hard time getting financial support for it. And B, sometimes directors get fascinated with new toys.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious if this was just a new toy thing, or if this was just a micro low budget run and gun. Like, I'd be very interested if Spike himself was camera operating at times. I would not be surprised, because you would have that ability with the kind of cameras that they were using, and the fact that they were very often handheld. So I would be curious with that. But that's that's a package of my initial reactions.
Okay.
And then I have to include it as an initial reaction because it happens almost immediately. My biggest negative of this film, and it is Damon Wayans and the voice that he decides for his character.
Yes. The voice catches it all.
Maybe it would work if he wasn't the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to make him the narrator, and he almost like, and I can completely understand that, because it's probably done months apart from each other. But it sounds like in the narration, it's a little bit of a different guy. The accent is maybe a little stronger. It's a little weirder in person at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, his dad, I think, does point out the only thing that slightly, it doesn't fully save it, because I'm with you. It's so weird. It's such a weird, like,
yeah,
choice.
I can understand.
But his dad does have a line where he's like, and tell me something. Where the hell did you get that accent?
Yeah. Like,
so it's like he's supposed to sound like it's an unauthentic accent, mm-hmm. but it's a little too it's too authentically unauthentic.
Right. Well, I'm thinking they're trying to speak to like the whole code switching thing.
Mm.
And I think in this film you do that real.
Yeah.
Like, Damon Wayans is doing what they would do if they were doing it in living color sketch about code switching.
Yeah.
And I feel like this would require just because it's the whole movie.
I agree.
And it's so weird, and it's a little it's ear drilly sometimes because it's so, I don't know, he chose to be so nasally and
It's like, I don't know exactly what you're going for with this accent, but you back to the drawing board, buddy.
Right. And so those are all my initial reactions.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, it was the song that starts with the in 1492 you came ashore, blah blah blah. That first in 1492 has always just been stuck in my head, not knowing what it was attached to and where I heard it. I didn't even remember the "You Came Ashore" line. I just remembered, I was like, I don't think it was Columbus sailed over. What fucking song is that where I got that from? Apparently, beginning of fucking Bamboozled. And probably whatever the actual song is, if it was ever on the radio. Calm down, people at home.
I don't think I even registered the song in the opening.
I gotcha. I did think it was funny. He was complaining about the decline of television and like how people have so many options these days, and I'm like, little did you know, because they had
70 cable channels.
Yeah,
like they had 70 total TV channels. Way too many options.
Yeah, like little did you know in 2000 just how little or how many options people were gonna have.
How about try everything from every time ever? Those are the options that are on my table in this very moment.
Could I interest you in everything all of the time? Circa Bo Burnham.
I wish we could talk about that. I would talk about that for 5 hours. Oh my God. Can we just make this an inside? I have the vinyl somewhere. But no, Bamboozled.
But yes. Also, third initial reaction for me was, damn, Savion is so fucking good at tapping.
Right. I was just about ready to say, as we go deeper in, like, it's still early in the movie. Initial reactions are Savion's so great. And like Tommy Davidson is a king.
Yeah.
Like I think about my time watching In Living Color, and he was probably one of my favorites. And he doesn't have the afterlife of In Living Color that so many people ended up having.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so fucking good.
Yes.
Like, he has perfect control of every muscle in his body, and he's using, like, he's every single movement is for a purpose, and to either make him funnier in that moment or you know, he is incredible. Like, yeah, those are also some of my initial reactions. The opening greeting, the how we meet those two, and both of them are just incredible, and they continue to be like they hold this movie up.
Yes,
the pair of them.
I will agree with you on that one. Yeah, Tommy Davidson does a fucking fantastic job in this movie, and in general, because Tommy Davidson, like you said, has always been one of my like upper.
Yeah, man. Why doesn't he work more? He should be working more. Like,
like he should be right up there with Fox and Carey, as far as like a post In Living Color success.
Yeah. Man,
I mean, he had that one movie with Jamie Foxx, Booty Call.
Oh God, yeah, Booty Call. He got I guess he got a couple of shots.
Did you see that movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I like, speaking of black movies that you may or may not have seen.
Vivica, and is that Jada too?
No. It's another girl that's in a lot of things, though. I don't remember her name.
Oh my God. Well,
she's in a lot of black stuff, though.
I'm looking it up because I'm gonna have to.
She had the like braids that she had to like set it off braids in that movie that Jada had. But it wasn't Jada. Definitely was Vivica, though. Like I said, Vivica was one of my first crushes.
Pamela Jones.
Yes.
Was Nikki.
Yes. her. She's in a lot of stuff too. A lot of like 90s black stuff.
Yeah. And Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and just get into the movie, standout moments and stuff. More stuff about the movie, how it goes. So I guess we usually give like a general like idea of the plot. So Damon Wayans' character, Pierre something super French. Delacroix. Pierre Delacroix, whose real name is Peerless Dothan, as we eventually find out. Well, we hear the Peerless when he talks to his parents, and then Jada has that line where she's like, "Huh, Peerless Dothan?" I'm like, so there's his full
Pierre
name.
Delacroix.
Yeah, Delacroix. Pierre Delacroix works as a writer for a big cable network or whatever, CNS, and he has not had a lot of success getting his TV shows pitched because they're too, lack of a better term, cornbally.
Yeah, it sounds like there are a lot of Cosby kind of recycles.
Yeah, and he eventually gets fed up and he's like, fuck it. I'm gonna make a show that's so negatively charged with racial stereotypes, they'll fucking fire me from this company and I'll go do my own shit somewhere else.
Pushed by his boss, the director of VP of entertainment or whatever, Michael Rappaport, who does such a great job at being people that you hate. Like being awful human beings. And I don't know if you're familiar with his internet presence, but he is a very lovely dude who, I mean, not lovely. Could be an asshole too, but he's very pro.
Yeah,
a lot of positive things.
He seems like he'd be a cool person, but he is so good at / he's just he's very easy to hate when he wants to be. I'll put it that way. He's very good at playing the villain. Like he just adheres to that, and he's got a villain face. He's got a villain like tone and he's
without question
cadence.
Our villain of this film.
Yeah, and
for sure.
And he's good at that. That like he was casted well, and he even tried to like have the whole I can say the N-word as much as I want. I got a black wife and 2 like mixed race kids. I know your race better than you do because you over here doing this. Tell me who number 24 is on my wall behind me.
What did you guess? I assumed Kobe.
I assumed, but when I remembered,
but I didn't know if
2000,
he was 24. Yeah, that's the thing. Was he 24 by 2000?
It wasn't the 24 he was talking about. Because later you see all the like black athletes he has, and 24 was a baseball player.
Oh, so it was Ken Griffey?
I don't know. They showed his back. I feel bad that I don't know it, but I'm not in there talking to Michael Rappaport and having to prove my blackness to him.
Ken Griffey Jr. was number 24. I would guess that it was him. I didn't notice it. Like the couple of times that I was trying to pay attention for it, I kept just seeing like
it was when they had
Tyson.
Yeah, I noticed it when they had the pitch meeting with Tommy Davidson and Savion. That's when at one point they showed the whole
and
table.
I could have seen it again probably with the public relations meeting because that has virtually the same setup.
Yeah,
I wasn't paying attention to the background then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I bet it's Ken Griffey Jr. if it was a baseball player.
Yeah. Yeah, so they started having conversations about like what it means to actually be black. He's calling him a Oreo and all this stuff, and I'm like, these conversations about what it means to actually be black are all too familiar for me and still as uncomfortable as ever because spoilers, people at home, I have often been accused of not being actually black. And I'm like, no, I'm black. I ain't the most, clearly that, but there are times where people are like, come on now, where's your black I mean, how come you don't know who number 24 is? I'm like, damn, you right. But moving on. So eventually he gets the idea to have a black minstrel show, a modern day millennium minstrel show. And he has this tap dancer, Savion Glover, whose name is
because
Man
it's
Ray.
the most offensive thing that he can think of
Yes.
in that moment. And the first stage of Damon Wayans' character, he is doing this so that he is immediately fired and released from his contract.
Yes.
Is what he's thinking. He will either he will present this show and immediately get fired, or this racist ass boss he has will allow him to make the pilot, and then when more people actually see this garbage, he will then get fired.
Correct.
This is his mindset at this point when he's plotting to make in the initial creation of the show.
However, he starts getting undercut almost immediately, and his assistant Sloane, played by Jada Pinkett, is against the idea of a minstrel show, but she's like been with them throughout life and stuff, so she's like, we'll give it a shot if you do want to get fired, but I don't think this is right, especially because she got to go home to her radical, like the other side of the racist coin, in Most Def, and who does a good job in this movie with what he needs to do as well.
I love Most Def.
Yeah,
I love him every time he pops up into something. He's wonderful. Continue.
Going by Big Black Africa, because I forget what his birth name is, but he's like, oh no, it's like Julius or something like that, and he's like, no, don't call me that, that's the slave name. She's like, that's what mom and dad called you. Then he had the whole argument about like, this ain't meant to disrespect them, it's meant to respect our culture, like before them and stuff like that. Y'all call Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali and etc. I'm Big Black Africa. And he's also a rapper, but he's very much the, fuck all white people, they the reason, for all our problems type deal. And he's got his whole gang full of other black people and one white dude that feel the same way that he does.
Yeah.
Nothing against it being in the group, but it was one of those things where I was just like, is someone gonna call this guy out once?
They don't really do it until the end.
Yeah, like someone gonna call this guy out once. He even throws in a line when they're like on stage, is like 1/16. Like I guess he's as black as I am white, which is technically I am about 1/16 or so white, maybe more actually, but you would never tell, and it's not like I can put it on a fucking application. That's him in terms of black.
I'm mostly pink.
Yeah, especially right now.
Joke on my terrible complexion.
Oh, I was just going with the lighting, but yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, in normal lighting too.
Fair. But anyway, she agrees, but wants him. He gets these group of street performers that are homeless and kind of bother him, trying to get a shot at the spotlight. He's like, well, you know what? I can easily get them to sign up for this because they desperate.
Right. And then like one of them's a tap dancer, one of them's an MC, and they make, obviously boss loves the idea. We have another super racist meeting of him loving the pitch and loving the idea and loving and meeting
exactly
the two actors.
The premises, because they didn't know.
Right,
the
two actors are that's a surprise to them.
Like, modern day coons, and it's like, holy shit. That is not what we saw. You can see it on Tommy Davis's face as well as Jada Pinkett's, where it's like, we're going that far with it? Holy fuck. And Savion's like, do I get to tap dance on camera and get money for it? I'm in.
Yeah.
They were desperate enough to at least try this, but again, they thought it was
going to be. And they literally
like
makes him dance for his job in the office.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And
it's on the table.
Yeah, it's cool because it's Savion Glover tap dancing on a table, and that's cool. But it's also weird and humiliating.
In
And
the grand scheme of what the movie goes on to be, that is, more humiliating than
it's metaphorical on top of just being
because on the
Savion
surface
Glover
I'm
tap
like,
dancing.
if someone ain't seen me tap dance, and if they might be like, hey, tap dance, let's see what you got. Because they're just thinking from a purely Hollywood perspective of like, you just got this guy, well, I'm gonna need to see something of his. Well, fucking dance.
Right.
So on that surface level is that, but when you see the deeper undertones, it's like, given the situation and why and what he's auditioning for.
Yeah. It's a little.
But eventually they get some other people to audition for things. They get their own band that they call the Alabama Porch Monkeys. This thing gets as offensive as possible. There will be some offensive terms thrown in. I put the disclaimer at
Omari.
the beginning. I put the thing
Exclusively.
at the beginning. I put the thing at the beginning. You're about to hear a whole different side of Bill. No. I'm messing with you. No, I'm not gonna go too far, but I'm just going like so people can like, damn.
Yeah.
And they eventually also get MC
It
for
does
the
not
crowd.
pull its punches.
No, and they also go ahead.
It hits. It hits hard.
Yes.
Like, this is not just a minstrel show. They are on a watermelon patch.
Yes.
They are slaves. This is they are doing a time hop.
Yes, because whatever they initially
piece.
were gonna do, his premise gets hijacked by Rappaport, because he's like, well, I said I wanted some black writers on here so I could do this as a satire of, minstrel shows, and they didn't. They hired an all white writing staff. They changed the theme song Behind Her Back to be extra offensive. They changed some other stuff, but he at least got to cast the people that would be on it, including the band, which I think was played by the Roots, or at the very least had Questlove.
It had Questlove. I didn't recognize anybody else.
Okay.
From the band, but they might have been in there. He
started picking his hair. I'm like,
of course.
Oh shit! It's the Roots guy, Questlove.
You can't not see Questlove there.
And then two other auditions of notes was Jada Pinkett's brother, or Most Def, and his group the Mau Mau's auditioning. That's where the 1/16th comes in. They did not get accepted. They were very aggressive with their song too, which I kind of like the song, but I mean,
it's Most Def. Most Def is incredible.
But they were also extra aggressive in your face with it. So I'm like, I can kind of see them being scared too, just because, motherfucker, you're a verb. Oh, God. But no, it was still an awesome song. Like, from this is like, okay. Yeah,
it's kind of a cool song.
Yeah.
For sure.
But another person they cast is the guy they usually use to warm up the crowd
but
and stuff.
Again, too much of it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a musical. We don't need to see an entire performance of a full song. At some points, shot like it's a live performance music video.
I will give you that.
It's like we need to condense these moments down. I think, and about here is where I feel like I don't know. Maybe we can. Because I don't have a fully formulated thought on this, and so maybe we could work it out together or something. I'm not sure, but I feel like he had the idea to do this movie, wanted to do this film. Okay, a satire on blackface and a modern minstrel show. Okay, boom, and then realized how hard it was going to be to really pull that off on a satirical level.
Yeah.
And started leaning on just incredible long shots of Savion Glover tap dancing and a good 6 to 10 minutes of Paul Mooney's stand-up set, just ripped straight from his act, and put on film.
Yeah, Paul Mooney being Damon Wayans' father in the movie Junebug.
Yeah, there's just I don't know. I think it gets very interesting in the back third. The middle third doesn't know what it's doing.
There's the stuff like that, and then there's the things that I noticed the first time when they came to the idea to use Savion and Tommy Davidson. But him and Jada were sleeping, and he wakes up and he's like, Eureka! She wakes up, oh my God. Then it shows him again, Eureka! Oh my God. And then they do the thing, and there's a couple of other shots throughout it where they repeat like the same thing, and I'm like, but why though?
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
it's not even wanting to do that. I understand the idea of wanting to do that, but even then, I don't think it's executed well, timing wise. It makes you. It doesn't. Maybe that's the goal, because it makes you feel uncomfortable, because your brain is just so focused on like that's not right. What?
Another person they hired for the show, though, I just want, because it comes up later in the thing. Thomas Jefferson Bird's character, who's just a black actor who goes by the name Honeycutt.
I don't know if he's an actor.
He says he's an actor, so I'm going with that.
Yes, yeah.
He's like, my thing I do is I'm an actor. I act. But I can do just about anything you need me to do, blah, 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 blah. He's definitely just there for the fame and the money, and he don't care what he has to do or say to do it. He's going to do it, but he mentions at the audition that he came to an epiphany one day recently, and that's that, in his words, and I guess in life, niggas is a beautiful thing. That's his catchphrase. That's word for word. Just niggas is a beautiful thing. And then that's what Delacroix sees. And he's like, write that down. He's like, no, we're definitely going to use him for something. Because if that's his big life epiphany, that's what I need. You know what I mean? For what I'm doing if I'm Damon Wayans.
Right. He becomes a big... He essentially... Because Tommy Davidson... Because it's no longer a two-man act, Tommy Davidson isn't really the MC anymore. He is the comedic presence of the show, really, and Savion's the tap dancer, and so, Honeycutt gets shifted into the MC role, and he's very entertaining at it.
Yeah.
Even though, at times they're doing terrible things.
One of the standout moments later is a very uncomfortable scene involving him doing his MCing near the climax of the movie. But that line, and especially that the uttering of it during said scene, was one of the 2 or 3 things that always stuck with me. Throughout my life. Like when I thought about Bamboozled, I remembered, like I said, the bank, and I remembered niggas is a beautiful thing said by him in that moment. But yeah, they put on the skits, they get all these people together, and they put on the first show. It is as offensive as can be. Dude passes out, gets revived with a watermelon. Just all other kinds of stuff, and the crowd is visibly uncomfortable, but they keep turning on the applause thing, and so they clap because they're supposed to when it's done. It's like a new howl now, yeah. And so turns out the execs see it, and they're like, especially Michael Rappaport, and he's like, that's it. This is a hit. They're gonna give us 12 episodes. They're gonna do so and so. You should be happy about this. And Delacroix's like, what? It's like the producer's gone as wrong as possible, except you don't go to jail. Yeah, but it's the idea of trying to make something intentionally bad only for it to be a hit in the worst way possible. And yeah, they end up garnering a lot of negative attention, as it should, from the black community and everything. And eventually, movie happens, plot goes, people start dealing with the consequences of things or just not wanting to still be part of it.
Well, yeah, I guess a key moment here. So like the pilot happens, which we were just breaking down, and then everyone loves it. I mean, there is negative reaction from certain segments of of different communities, but it's pretty much mostly overwhelmingly positive in a fucked up way.
Yeah, and it's a big hit. Just the black community doesn't like it, but all around the fucking country, people are loving it.
Right, and so it feels like Spike Lee actually shows more of the black community being into the show than he shows the black community not being into the show. He depicts almost overwhelmingly positive, except for Jada Pinkett Smith at times, and Mos Def's crew.
Yeah, and what's his name's parents.
And yeah, and then her mother at that end phone call. Yeah, but I mean, he frequently populates the audience with members of the black community who visibly look very into the show. He shows us people seeing the show on television and enjoying it at times. So I was curious at what you thought he was saying there, because there's obvious tones to why the white audience members in this movie should not be as into this fucking show as they are. But there are a number of black people who are super into this show depicted in this movie.
If I could say something, it's probably along the lines, because the audience is kind of an even split.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's even, but there's
it's kind of hard to tell for obvious reasons. By the way, This is a minstrel show with blackface, and actual blackface, not Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. I'm talking, they tell you the method of how they do it. Like, because people give Robert Downey Jr. a lot of flack every once in a while on the internet, and it's like, the whole point of that character is he was playing a white guy playing a black guy, and they're telling you that's wrong. So leave him alone for that movie. Also, you want to talk blackface, see Bamboozled on just what blackface really is. Because you can't just label everything something, because that takes away the significance of the label. But yeah, where you burn cork with alcohol, take it, and you have to put cocoa butter on so you don't burn yourself from the burnt stuff. And then you smear that on your face with the reddest lipstick possible, you bug eyes and all the terrible stereotypes there. But as far as with the audience thing, to go back to your point, I think it's more of the realistic fact that at the end of the day, other races, whites or otherwise, are going to have their negative stereotypes and stuff. But we are also partially responsible for reinforcing some of these negative stereotypes. And I will use a story that I referenced on a different video on the internet of a time where I was in St. Louis. I was with some friends of mine. We've had Jazz on the show. I was with Jazz, his brother, or I think I was with Jazz. Exactly. I was waiting for we were waiting for his brother outside of Union Station, and there was a dude in his 40s or 50s chilling at a car next to us waiting for someone himself, and he's smoking a joint on the street. And we're chatting with him because though we may identify as introverts, we're kind of extroverted. So we're like talking to this guy, just being nice, and then he's like, yeah, yo, y'all want some of this, offers? And nah, I'm good. Me? No, but thank you for thank you for offering. You must be from the north side of the city with that bitch talk. Thank you for offering. Motherfucker, I'm just trying to have some fucking manners. Excuse me for being raised to have manners. As far as I know, weed's expensive. You don't fucking know me. You're just some nigga on the street that just see me, some other nigga on the street, and you're like, here's some fucking weed that I spent a lot of money on. That's a nice gesture. So thank you, stupid ass. But no, you're gonna call me a bitch. Now, if I wasn't so, convinced that this motherfucker who's clearly doing an illegal activity in public, who gives a damn who sees him, probably has a gun on him too, if that's the case, I didn't lash out like I wanted to. Dude was also 100 pounds heavier than me. I wasn't trying to fight nobody, but I definitely wanted to. And you've known me long enough to know that day was slightly different. I might be a lot more injured than I am now because I would have gone off.
Right. You've been known to go red and not do the calculation of consequences or the math of his weight versus your weight or reach or what he would be carrying or not carrying. There are days where you would have just gone red and then we'll see.
I'll regret it afterwards once it reaches its climax. Broken head, like when I broke that headset at my job because I was mad. Just die. Broke a headset and then snapped out I lost my job. I didn't, but I thought, well, I lost my job. I'm packing up and going home. Fuck it. I got mad. This happens. But no, so that kind of stuff always frustrated me. Like when I mentioned I've been accused of not being black enough because I talk a certain way and don't act a certain way enough. And I'm like, well, what was I supposed to say? Nah, fuck you, nigga. I don't want your fucking ass weed. And they're like, nah, just be like, nah, I'm good. What's the difference between nah, I'm good and no, but thank you for offering? I'm sorry. Aside from enunciation, which I've also learned from being a fucking actor. So I'm getting heated now just from that, but that's just the idea of you and I can talk differently. That's fine. But I'm not calling you a bitch or a fucking insert horribly offensive slur here because you y'all niggas want some weed? Nah, I ain't go oh, you fucking negative ass stereotype, you're a disgrace to the black community and no shit like that. I just said, no, thank you for offering, and I'm the bitch. So, looking at that small situation and how that would go on to help perpetuate what negative stereotypes there are out there, because they want everybody to act like what people perceive as a negative stereotype. I'm not saying talking hood is necessarily a negative thing, but you get my point. When they put a black person in a movie and he talks quote unquote hood, you then accuse them of being racist because not all black people act like that. But when other black people act differently than hood, they're suddenly a little bitch from the north side of the city. Nigga, I was in Castle Point. Okay, I've lived in Castle Point. I've lived in the city. I've lived all around St. Louis. Thank you very much.
My boy moves.
Anyway, I may not have a clue why the cutlass
what if
is
he
blue.
saw this?
I may not have a clue why the cutlass is
That'd be
blue,
hilarious
but I
if
definitely would have one too.
There's some
How about
dude
that?
watching this who's like,
and I'd have them things on the motherfucker too.
Oh shit. I called some little bitch from the north side 5 years ago. I think I'm that dude.
Years down the line, if it blows up and then it goes viral. Just wait, that Omari dude? Oh shit. Well, the story's out on the internet twice now. Increasing the chance he'll find it.
There you go.
Anyway,
he's gonna find you, bro.
but yes, sometimes black people will look at certain stereotypes and go, that's a disgrace. You're putting us back 100 years. There are about as many, usually younger, black folks that'll look at that and be like, well, that's authentic. I love it. I got an uncle like that. You know, I know people like this. Fucking Grand Theft Auto 5. There's Franklin, who's one of the main characters, and he's got a dude named Lamar that's with him that almost every other word is nigga. That dude uses nigga more than I do in a non-professional capacity. Like, he's just blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, you see, that right there, I can see people getting mad, but I know people like that. Unfortunately, stereotypes exist for a reason. I don't think anyone should have liked Man Tan with Sleep and Eat and all of that. But who knows? There's some people like, whatever, y'all too stuck up.
Tommy Davidson is an incredibly entertaining individual.
To be fair, there was a skit where they kept cutting each other off in the chicken coop.
Yeah. The chicken coop scene, if it
They did not need the racial stuff on top of it. If it didn't have all the minstrel show shit attached to it, that shit is gold.
Yeah. It's gold. Just because Tommy Davidson is a master. It is a master class in comedy, that scene. It doesn't matter what words they're actually, it's the rhythm and
exactly
all of it.
Yeah, because they weren't even having that racial of a conversation. It's just while they're having this conversation, they're full on blackface at a plantation in a chicken coop, about to run from a white man with a shotgun because he's, the headmaster or whatever. So yeah, when you put that on top of whatever scene it is, you take away from some of the funniness. Nonetheless, it was a funny ass conversation.
Yeah, the same exact thing goes for the my father married my stepdaughter. Thing. Like that's old grandfather. It's not even really about the material. It's just the rhythms and the. And Tommy Davidson being incredible, and it's just a masterclass and
I feel like
doing that kind of timing of comedy. I feel like that was
a great decision getting Tommy Davidson for this movie to do that, because we've mentioned so many times how good he is at what he does. I think it was a great decision, because if you're going to try to convey to the movie watchers that this is a hit, Tommy Davidson with Savion Glover, Tommy Davidson's comedic genius with Savion Glover's tap dancing mastery is a good combination. And it's like, technically that's what everybody's flocking to. Unfortunately, it's a minstrel show. But given what they're showing, aside from the blackface shit, watch it.
Right. So at this point, also another thing I want to highlight is we've gone beyond the point where Damon Wayans' character has made his first turn. So immediately after the pilot, the second it gets well received, he's like, okay, well, all right. So this no longer is a thing that I want to get fired on. It's going to be revolutionary genius satire against blackface. And then that, as you kind of started alluding to, it gets degraded away very quickly, and he gets very little satire into the show, and then his character makes a final turn where it's like,
this is my life now.
Money, 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 money.
Also, seeing Mooney going from, in terms of Paul Mooney, going from club to club to try and get a paycheck and gig and not really have that successful career. He's like, my dad's the reason I got into entertainment, and he's doing like 10-person shows at a bar. I can't have my life end up like this, so fuck it. I'm going all in. Jada gets him a little piggy bank that reminds him that's from way back, technically referred to as a jolly nigga bank. And you put a coin in the black faced man's hands, and he eats it, and his eyes roll back in his head like on some shit. And that's how the bank works. I had remembered the Jolly Nigga Bank and Niggas is a Beautiful Thing. Only two things I remembered from this movie. I was just because the term Jolly Nigger Bank, I was like, what? My Jolly Nigger Bank was sitting on my desk. And I was like, like that line. I was just like, what the fuck? So yes, his weird voice and narration had always stuck with me with that. But yeah, Jada gets him that to be like, just so you know, this is what they thought of us back then. This ain't a reproduction. This is actually a product of its time. So I want you to realize that this was 100 years ago that they saw us like this.
Yeah.
And he's like, He ends up liking the bank too. He's like, yes, my favorite bank.
He ends up growing. It's the start of a gigantic collection.
Yeah.
He ends up growing of blackface memorabilia because we fast forward and surprise, surprise, the show is like the most popular thing on TV. He wins all the awards. Blackface takes over Halloween as like Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
All of the audience, white and black, show up in full true black, as Omari was saying. We're not talking Robert Downey Jr. here. We're talking black, as in the color black.
Like the headphones.
And giant red lips.
Yeah.
The entire audience comes to the tapings now in this garb. It is an incredibly successful show. Tommy Davidson and Savion Glover's characters are now in fancy apartments. Savion Glover is now dating Jada Pinkett. He is riding. He's
succeeding at life.
He is riding high, and yeah, and then we get the inevitable downfall.
Mm-hmm.
It happens one person at a time. We've got, I think Jada Pinkett's first, right? And then it's Tommy Davidson, or is it?
I think
swapped?
so. I think I want to say Tommy Davidson first.
Tommy Davidson is first. He is first. Yeah, because they happen almost one right after the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tommy Davidson just one day is like, all right, I ain't drinking the Kool-Aid no more. I never was to begin with. Hell, when they're prepping, the first time they both are like, regret, but they're like, whatever, show time. Yeah. But then
they were homeless.
Yeah. And then the second time, like just the second time they show that, there's tears in their eyes because, oh shit, this is my life now. And it's like, showtime. And then later, not even showtime, just let's go. But Tommy Davidson's like, fuck this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being a race trader, blah, blah, blah. I'm out. You out with me? And Savion's like, dude, this is what we signed up for. You make a deal with the devil, you go all in. You that's your life now. Which kind of he has a point. Like, you can't go back, which we see later. Just because you quit doing the show, don't make the people who were offended forgive you. So he's like, dude, you kind of gotta be all in on this. But around that same time, fucking Jada quits.
Yeah, Jada quits. Damon convinces Savion that she's just kind of like he pulls like she's just a harlot kind of thing, like the classic, just like accuse a woman of being a slut,
because especially because she came in and like they had an argument right before Savion comes to him and all that stuff, and after that argument she talks to Savion, and then Savion starts to question it. And then Damon drives the further wedge between their relationship that he needs to, because apparently, surprise, surprise, Jada and Pierre had relations early on in life.
Right.
And they've just been business since, but early on in life, they did have a relationship. Which Correct. I could kind of tell there was at least some kind of feelings, if not from her, from him. It's like my little lamb Sloan, my little lamb this, my little lamb. I'm like, are they dating? Is she the love interest? Because like I said, it's been 22 years since I've seen this movie, so I was like, does she end up with him? Early on when he's calling her his little lamb or some shit. But no, they had already tried that and it failed, but they were still cool being close until now, where he's like, fuck it, you're done, get out of my life. And then eventually Savion's like, all right, I ain't doing it. In fact, I'm gonna try to make a statement. And as he's getting ready to make his statement, we get a standout moment in and of itself because of how, like, goes on way longer than it needed to. Speaking of things that need to go on too long, but it's Honeycutt now as a black-faced Abe Lincoln going around the crowd after Tommy Davidson had left. They started replacing Tommy Davidson's door with Honeycutt's name, and he's going around the crowd like, hey, asking everybody in the crowd, is you a nigga? Is what he's asking them, and everyone's like, white, black, and everything in between. I'm a nigga because of this. I'm a nigga because of that. I'm a real nigga, white guy. I'm a Polish nigga. I'm more nigga than Sicilian. I'm a Sicilian nigga. I'm more nigga than all of y'all in here. And it's like, holy shit.
And then he raps. Oh my god.
And then he raps. And then he talks to some girls like, I'm black, I'm a nigga, and I'm beautiful. He's like, you're damn right. And you know why? Why? Because niggas is a beautiful thing. Niggas is a beautiful thing. As the whole fucking crowd just... And that's what stuck with me, was just, I remembered that exact shot of niggas is a beautiful thing repeated as the crowd cheers, and I'm like, that movie got too ridiculous. I remembered that the show became successful and everything, but I was like, damn, it did get to this is a lot more by the way, this movie was a lot more uncomfortable for me to watch this time than it was when I was 13 or however old I was 23 years ago. Oh shit, I might have been right. Anyway, however old I was, that it was a lot heavier this time. But yeah, Savion eventually comes out, no blackface. They're like, well, fine, get your ass off our show. I don't care if you can tap dance, because he just starts tap dancing. But they're like, no, get him out of here. If you don't want to do blackface, we got Honeycutt.
Does his same opening speech from the pilot, but now instead of a comedic way while covered in blackface, he's doing it in an incredibly serious tone. But it's word for word the same dialogue as his first line in the pilot. And he also faints then. Yeah. And then that's when Tommy Davidson starts to wake him up with the watermelon.
Gotcha. So that's what he did this time.
Right. It was just played serious instead of playing it funny. Yeah,
and they have security take him out, but security don't follow him outside. And like I said, most deaf people didn't like what he was doing.
No.
They immediately kidnap him, and they decide they're going to publicly execute this man. And it actually gets aired publicly.
That's ridiculous. That would never happen.
Yeah.
That would never happen. But yeah, the Damon's narration tells us that the news networks put in a special request to the government to be allowed to air this live stream that was going to be occurring.
And then before they do it though, they make him dance while shooting at his feet, and it kind of ruined the Looney Tunes bit for me because I had never put black associated with it. But the music they play during, if not that, then a different one, is from a skit that involves Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam, where Yosemite Sam's like, "Dance, you motherfucker," and like shoots at his feet, and then Bugs is like, they start playing that. And I'm like, no, don't ruin that. That song always does it. But
as how most things end up being.
Yeah,
I would imagine that has immensely terrible real world.
Oh, I'm sure. That's why I said it ruined it for me. Because it goes with the whole statement that racism is taught. You know, if you don't really talk about racism and, you know, keep getting all that stuff home, people don't necessarily think as much about the racist implications of things.
Yeah.
Like, that is a good example. Like, I always associated that with Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
I thought he was just doing something vaudevillian.
I think in my head it was Old Westian.
Yeah, Old West vaudeville.
Dance.
Yeah. Because Yosemite Sam is Old Western.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I always kind of associated it to cowboys.
Yeah.
And I always pictured, because you always, I always picture that those like dust clouds coming up.
Yeah,
at their feet.
But then playing that song, I'm like, oh, now I have to add something else to this. Yeah, it took me 20 years to forget that was included in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he does die because after they make him dance by shooting at his feet, they're like, "Fuck you," and just gonna shoot you.
Yeah. They telegraphed that.
Yeah.
They were telegraphing that for the entire back third of the movie.
Yeah. No, like a lot of the movie, they're like, we gotta do something that people are gonna pay attention to, because fuck this shit. We gotta do something monumental. I'm like, oh, they're gonna fucking murder this man.
Yeah, and at one point Damon gives him Bojangles' actual shoes that Bojangles died in, and then Savion looks at the shoes and goes, "Yeah."
I'm like, well, that's
all
happening.
right. Stamp. Dead.
DEDT. Debt.
So, you want to take us home?
Yeah, and then Jada Jada now
right, and then Jada shoots Damon.
Yeah, she lost her brother because her brother goes outside after killing him immediately to find the police, who shoot everyone in his gang but the white dude, who they just simply arrest while he's begging to be killed like everybody else. He's like, why didn't you shoot me? Why didn't you shoot me? All it takes is one drop of black blood and you're black enough. You should have shot me. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it already earlier. I don't remember if that was before we started or not, but like I was like you, waiting for them, like, all right, this dude's not black, right? Is this dude black?
Like,
no. Is he like really light skinned? No, he's not. And then yeah, they wait till really that moment to really punch it home.
That it was just a white dude with black people. Not that there's anything wrong with white dudes hanging out with black people, nor is there anything
There's something wrong with that?
Nor is there anything wrong. There was less of my people in the group, at least in high school, than there was in yours. Just saying, not that there's any problem with that. But yeah.
No, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then, nor is there any problem with being offended at, the injustices. I was just waiting for him to be like, white people is the worst shit ever, and somebody to be like, nigga, you white.
I was waiting for the moment one of his crew, but they just. Yeah. I guess that crew's mindset is like, if you adopt their cause 100%.
Or maybe what he was saying about one drop's enough as long as you acknowledge it.
Right. But that's true for that's likely true for almost all of us.
But with that, we all had it because the whole, you trace the roots of humanity back to Africa.
Right.
But He
and you know, my ancestors were terrible people.
well, yes.
More than likely.
Oh, fair.
I haven't done the whole 23andMe thing, but you know.
Yeah.
There's high odds, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. I know for a fact that, you know, I've gone over you about like just how terrible some of them were.
Right.
Or at least distant relatives, not necessarily ancestors, but still kind of connected by blood. Anyway, what was I talking about? Well, the one drop being enough, they're like, as long as you reckon, if you feel like you black because you're acknowledging, like, hey, my great grandma was half, I'm black enough. I want to adopt a black cause. Only one drop is all you need to be like this, you know what I mean? Because mixed kids are generally just considered black when in the social structure of things. They're not considered mixed. They're black now. Like Obama, the first black president of America.
I always loved his explanation really, really early on in his first campaign, when somebody gave him, I don't know, some reporter tried to do a gotcha of like, well, actually, you were raised by and blah blah blah, and do you speak to that? Like, you know, what do you have to say to that? And he was always like, I think his explanation was as simple as, if I'm walking down the street and I pass somebody, and then you go up to that person and you say, what race was that guy that you just passed? That guy would say, that was a black man. Like, that makes me black, kind of thing.
Exactly. So
I just always loved that explanation. It always stuck in my brain.
Mm-hmm. So I got it, but yeah, they go. So now Jada, who's now lost her lover and her brother in the same fucking night, one to the other, and then one to police violence. Man, don't be Jada Pinkett's brother in a black movie, okay? You're gonna die. The cops are going to kill you.
You're gone.
Whether intentionally or otherwise. Anyway, yeah, so she goes and she confronts Damon Wayans with a gun. She doesn't really want to. She wants to shoot him, but she doesn't. But situations arise. Pow. He sits there, narrates his death. And he doesn't even like look at her with any disdain. He just kind of accepts it, like, I deserve this.
Yeah,
I deserve this, and he rolled over. And that's pretty much the movie. We kind of covered the standout moments in our things, unless
we covered the entire movie this time.
Yeah, I'm about to say, unless there's any other things specifically you want to point out.
No, yeah. I'm cool to roll into
rolls and shit. So, is there a role you'd like to play in this movie? Well, I mean, you could be at least. We listed at least two of them. There are options.
You know, I don't love the idea of it.
Well, you don't have to be.
I'll tell you that. I've thought about it. I've thought about the idea of it before.
You could be
like,
one drop's enough.
It happens, you know. Like it's if I gave up on community theater a long time ago.
Yes.
And then I went back to it and for one play and had an incredible experience. It was very well received. I enjoyed my time. It was very enjoyable. And I'm in this weird spot where I'm like, is that can be fine. Like that can be it. And I can just, that could be a great experience. Or do I dive back into this shit? Like, you know, COVID happened and then that was an easy excuse. But now I'm in this real realm of like, all right, there's auditions and like there's no more plays while wearing masks and it's just normal plays again. And like,
oh my God.
Do you want to? You didn't see any of that going on. I mean, it wasn't mass. It was usually the plexi visors.
Gotcha.
There was a period where they were trying to do plays, and all the actors would be in full hair and makeup and costume, and then also visors. Wearing a plastic visor.
Fair. I never thought to go to any plays during that time because
I didn't see them, but I would see some promotion because I'm like Facebook friends with. I've liked Facebook pages of the local theater
Okay.
groups and stuff so I can keep track of auditions. But anyway, there are a number of plays that deal with civil rights issues, and there's like 3 different plays about Martin Luther King alone.
Yeah.
And there's a number of them, and a number of the white characters in those plays are not pleasant people, and you have to say some hard words and some hard R's.
Yeah.
And I've never been asked to do that, and so in this moment I still don't know if I could.
Fair, but there's like I said, there's one drop is enough guy as well. The white guy.
There's one drop. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I could do that either. I'll be honest. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
you the friend groups that at least that I have been, mutually a part of with you have been pretty well enough mixed of whatever racist stuff, especially post high school.
Yeah.
So I could see you fitting in with something like that because you've
Omari, I try to diversify.
You've got enough experience with black people. Yeah. Well, Nick, you're the one that said you didn't want to diversify. You don't want to be the evil, not the evil black hater. So now I'm trying to tell you, hey.
Right. Well, yeah, but I feel like even with the one drop is enough guy, I'm going to definitely have to say some words, and I may even still have to say some hard R's. I can't recall. I feel like he might have at least said an
Oh, okay. Well, that's not a hard R. That's a soft A, good sir.
Well, yeah, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised if there's a hard R in there somewhere.
There's no difference between the two. Calm down, people at home. But I was just because of the situation.
You're not gonna get me, Omari.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to. No. So yeah. So me. I for the same reason that you wouldn't want to do the Rappaport thing, I don't really want to be the Damon, the guy that decides that this is okay.
Yeah.
Same
like
time.
Jada Pinkett Smith is screaming at him, "It's all your fault."
Yeah.
Like Sob screaming, yelling at him, "It's all your fault," and she's not wrong.
No, not at all. Because she was against the idea from the start. He had to convince her. He had to convince her that this is what it is now. That said, Tommy Davidson's role would be fun. Obviously,
yeah. That's the one that I see you in.
Yeah, Tommy Davidson would be ideal, or even a Honeycutt, just because I'm a Thomas Jefferson Bird guy. I'm a fan of his, and especially after meeting him, obviously bias involved, but yeah, I could see that just to be like, hey, I knew this guy once. He helped be an early inspiration to acting, right, even if I didn't model my career after him or anything.
So I talked about the availability, what I would encounter in the audition process, and those would be a small minority of the parts, obviously, that I would end up going out and auditioning for. I'm curious on your end of things, like the most deaf role, or earlier when you were talking about, or how it's been I'm a big fan of Ron Funches, the stand-up comedian. I don't know if you're familiar with what Ron Funches.
I might have seen some of his stuff. I'm gonna feel stupid if I see a picture, because I probably have heard of him.
Big guy who has a very pleasant, high-pitched voice.
Okay, yeah.
And he likes, he likes wrestling. Actually, he Twitch streams watching the big wrestling shows and stuff. Cool. He's a huge wrestling head.
Nice.
He had Ric Flair in his stand-up special that he shot for Comedy Central. Yeah.
Did you see the clip of Ric Flair with Mike Tyson smoking weed in the street?
No, I did not.
It's just Ric Flair lighting up a joint. He's like, Ric Flair drip, go woo on a bitch. Oh, Mike Tyson is just cracking up next to me like, woo.
Ric Flair. But no, I'm curious of like,
The most definitely.
have you ever played have you ever been asked to play a thug, a gang member? Like a lot of actors and particularly comedians who are trying to get acting work, I know, struggle with they only get the casting call announcements for like wife beater and sagging pants, and is going to rob somebody or something like that
in a comedic fashion and fail.
Right. Yeah.
I had maybe not full on thug, but the Black Revolutionary type performance. I was part of a thing that Jazz doesn't really put out the names of the things that he was in, but I was in about 2011 when I went back up to St. Louis. I had one of the brief gigs that I had there was assisting someone with like a college presentation they had that dealt a lot with race. And I did a couple things. There was a scene from Raisin in the Sun where I was Walter, main character and stuff. Because of course I was. No. And then there was me doing a performance for another part of it because it was talking about like history. There's another part where I did the poem, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." And obviously when you hear the poem, you will not be able to stay home, my brother, blah, 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 blah. That it's firm, but also kind of calm. I took it and added more anger and just, you will not, just blah, blah, blah. And I even did it for a spur of the moment thing at the family reunion that year because they had a talent show. Mom's like, go up there. Every time there's a talent show at the family reunion, Mom's like, go up there. And I'm like, Mom, I prepared nothing. Please, I get it. I have talent, but I'm an actor. I study scripts and perform scenes.
Right.
I have not prepared anything. But because I had did that, I'm like, fuck it. I'll go up here and at least do the poetry thing. My mother is a fantastic poet in and of her own self, and the family knows it, as opposed to the family not really knowing what it is I do or end into. So I went up there and I'm like, all black crowd, lots of people older than me. This is gonna hit.
Yeah, you knew you had gold in your pocket.
I'm like,
you were like, I'm about ready to bring down this house. Like this is gonna destroy.
Yeah, and so I did it.
Like, were you even able to get through it? That's what I like. I would imagine the eruptions and the participation and the callback would almost get overwhelming.
No, people were holy shit
captivated
because
nice
angry black revolutionary is not necessarily what people think when they see me,
right?
Especially in my family because I am the youngest child of the youngest child when it comes to my mom and her siblings. A lot of people in the family see me as the baby, regardless of how old I am. They may not see me as a literal baby, but there's a mentality that they see like,
right.
I'm forever.
You were the last one to show up before your generation started having kids.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so there's also a mentality that comes with having been seen that way around people your whole life. You don't want to be too much of yourself around them because it's like, hey, adults. I will say that family reunion, I actually did finally get invited to the adults like after party hangout room. So that was cool. I was finally seen as an adult, regardless of whether or not I was seen, as younger.
Right.
But so that was a little life milestone for me. But no, when I ended it, because the last line, is the revolution will be live, and I was like, the revolution will be, and fist up live, and just. Oh, well, since when were you like that? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, you know me. So, in that regard, the black revolutionary, fuck whitey because reasons, I have done something like that. But as a full-on role for something, I haven't been anybody's first on radar for that kind of thing. I would play it. I would like to play it, because a role's a role, and I feel like I could do it. I've also kind of wanted to do it on occasion just because it is, now that I'm thinking about it, it is one of those things with me saying I'm constantly accused of not being true black. Like there was a line Jada used when the PR person was talking to Damon Wayans, and she's like, "But you're black." And Jada goes, "Oh, he's not black. He's a Negro." Whereas like he may be dark skinned, but he ain't actually black. And that's pretty much been what people have used to refer to me often throughout my life. So playing a role like that on a big enough scale just to put the image into people's head to let them know, no, I can be just as black as you, if you will. But that's also why the peerless, or what you call it, role kind of appeals to me, where I don't think I would go for the same accent. In fact, I definitely wouldn't, unless that was a direction thing.
Right.
Because that could also be the case. But his initial view at the start, I'm like, I get it. He's like, what? Because I'm not a negative stereotype, I'm somehow less of a person, let alone less of a black person. I'm sitting here in an office with a guy who is saying nigga in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable, which with how much I say it, that's a hard feat to accomplish. Not saying that I've used it a lot, but I'm saying like I take context usually into consideration. If someone's using it in the same context I'm using it, especially if it's someone I know personally, I may not trip as much. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. But with the way this guy was using it in the scene, I'm like, even I punch you in the face, but instead I'm gonna say, right, please don't use that word, and then you go lecture me about you being more black than I am. I felt Damon's rage in that. Yeah, I hated the color people time comment he made when Damon came in the room. I hate, speaking of stereotypes that other black people love to enforce, I hated seeing that all the time on black TV, like from Steve Harvey's show to anything. There's always like some episode or sometime, multiple times probably, where there's like a party or a get together or something, and somebody gets there and it's like, damn, you got here. Well, I'm surprised you came. It was so late. We thought you weren't coming. You said the party started at 7, right? Yeah, the party starts at 10. Yeah. Okay, well, black people, why are you reinforcing that stereotype, at least on TV, where you're just like, well, black people supposed to be late, it's a black thing. Ugh. Ugh. So that's why part of me would be fine doing the Pierre role, although the whole conclusion he comes to and what he does makes it less wanting to be. Tommy Davidson would be probably my idea thing, followed by Honeycutt and then Peerless.
Right
on. But yeah, Mos Def cool too. So yeah, final thoughts on the movie.
I wish it was shot with a real cinematic camera.
Okay.
Because I enjoy the first third. I enjoy the second third. The middle third doesn't really know what it wants to be. And all three pieces of the thirds are too long, have too much in them. I want to like this movie so much. And I feel like if it was shot with a cinematic camera and was an hour 45, there's a very, very interesting movie here. But yeah, I feel like the middle of the movie, he's not really sure. It doesn't feel like he knows what he wants. He's fully figured out what he wants to say about all of this. At that point, he's just kind of presented it all to us, and I was still waiting for the true satire to occur. But then he wraps it up, and I think it's an interesting bow that he wraps it up on. Even though, like I said, the Savion death is pretty heavily telegraphed. I don't mind it. It's a very interesting movie that I think could have been leaps and bounds better if it was shorter.
Okay. I'll give you that.
But
I won't say I second that, since apparently that means word to word. However, I will say that I agree with that assessment. It is too long. The negatives that I noticed were the ones you covered. Stuff like the quality only slightly. I thought it was kind of a stylistic choice, but then I also, as you pointed out, it's just a product of its time, is what it is. And the repeated shots, the Eureka, oh my God, and other things like that, because it happens a few times. And whatever was going on with all the like dolls and shit coming to life, and I'm not sure what was going on with that. There's some stuff you could cut out. Yes, when you think about it, certain performances do go on way too long. Like they stuck with Paul. Like actually, the Paul Mooney scene going on as long as it did, because he had a set. Him and Damon had a scene, and then it goes back to Paul Mooney material.
Or like a full joke, a full bit.
Yeah, and I'm like, and it was in that moment I was like, I might have suggested a bad movie. Not that nothing against anything else, but I was like, this doesn't make sense. But I feel like it's gonna. You know what I mean?
There are weird amateurish decisions.
Yeah.
From Spike Lee in the year 2000.
Yeah.
Like it kind of feels like a student film most of the time, and I don't really understand why.
Yeah.
Like he at this point, Spike Lee has been working for over a decade in full feature cinematic award-winning films.
Yeah.
This feels like something I would make if you were like, Bill, go make a movie right now. Have it to me in 2 months. Like I would have these weird mistakes and weird things that like, and editing feeling a little off, and because I don't know what I'm doing. I've never made a fucking movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I found it in my notes. I had hard watch because of the tones. It's meant to be a hard watch, so that's fine. But it's a hard watch. I wouldn't call it bad, but there were some weird choices That was what I had typed like before, such as the repeated shots back to back, and it's like, I don't get what. Did you fuck up editing? Did you have 2 takes and you just left one in? You know? Because that's what it seemed like. It looked like they had 2 ways to do it, and they were like, oops, I left it in there. Oh well, we sent it out. That's what it is now. We'll wait for the HD remaster.
Ain't coming.
and such. And
I don't think you could
stayed.
HD this. That's probably the reason why it's standard. Is because it would just look. It would look it would look atrocious. I bet.
Yeah.
You probably can't HD it.
Yeah. So that's that. That is Bamboozled. Not bad, but weird. There's definitely good movie in there.
Okay.
It's okay.
It's gonna end up at the end of the pantheon. It's gonna end up living in the middle somewhere.
At least it's okay and not okay. Just to go on with the whole topic. Anyway.
Yeah.
So what are we watching next week, good sir?
Next week we are going to watch Pop Star Never Stop, Never Stopping. 2016 film starring Andy Samberg.
Sounds like someone's having a good time. Don't
We'll
stop
lighten the
them.
mood a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I'm looking forward to it, especially with the Andy Samberg Lonely Island guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, if you want to see more of me and anything else, want to see more other stuff on this channel, obviously we talk about other movies of lighter topics, as we just said, or other things from anime and everything. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube with the Whatever We Want podcast with new episodes every week, every Wednesday. You can also find me on Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That is Giotavi. Come on in. Stop on by. And yeah, so Bill, you got anything to say? Anywhere people can find you? Anything? Shout outs?
You can find me at your mom's house tomorrow night.
Damn! All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Adiosness.